Hello, gentle viewers. This is Indian with an extra special edition of March of the Eagles. So, those of you that follow me on Twitter at Indian Gaming, or took a look at the comments for episode number 3 of this series, realize what happened. I had finished this campaign. 2 episodes left. Everything was hunky dory, and then I go to check my videos, and it turns out it only recorded the audio and not the sound. Audio and sound are the same thing. It only recorded the audio and not the video. That's the word I was looking for. Video. And that was really disappointing. I was actually quite upset about that. I did everything I could to figure out what I could do to fix the problem. I couldn't figure it out. It's a weird thing with OBS, online broadcasting software, and the older games. Sometimes it'll record them and sometimes it won't. I think I've got the problem licked for next time, but in any case, for this time, you won't get to see my thrilling exploits. And there's actually quite a few good wars in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to recap the last 4 years of the game, and then we'll take a look at the ending screen together. Fortunately, I had this save from January of 1820, so you can tell I'm not just making things up. So, if you recall, at the end of episode 3, I had a choice to make. And I decided I would attack Austria, which I did. And the war with Austria was going pretty well. I had taken the main objective, which was Radom, which is right here. And I was going to try to take as much of their territory as I could. However, at that exact moment, the Ottoman Empire decided it wanted to take its land back. The first war with Austria wasn't terribly interesting. I just ran them over as only Russia can do. But the Ottoman War was much more interesting. First of all, because the Ottomans declared war on me, which I did not expect to happen. And 2, because it was a real demonstration, which we haven't seen in this series before. By the way, there's no Z in Saritsyn. That's complete nonsense. They very cleverly went the path of least resistance. While I was pushing into the Balkans and Ottoman Europe, they were going through modern-day Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Georgia over the Caucasus Mountains. This was a really clever strategy on the AI's part, except for the fact of the Caucasus Mountains. The mountains and the sheer problems I had trying to get there meant that even though I had no soldiers there, they had to take all of my forts like Kars and Batum and Tiflis and Vladikavkaz, and they just couldn't get over the mountains quickly enough. Well, I was steamrolling. I retook Constantinople, and there was a pretty big fight for that. I actually lost my first battle in the series there, when an Ottoman army just jumped across the strait and squished my army. I brought up 2 more armies, and I was able to retake it. So I quickly ended my war with the Austrians while this was happening. I just got a sliver of land. Radom, Lublin, Zamość, possibly. And I believe Lemberg was that time, but I'm not positive. I took Lemberg, obviously. You can see it's in lovely Russian green, but I don't remember when I took it. But in any case, I focused entirely on the Ottomans, and I took some more land in Ottoman Europe, particularly the castles of Edirne and Felipe. I wanted them to release Wallachia, but they absolutely categorically refused. And I didn't feel like trying to transition my army from this part of Europe to this part of Europe. If we were playing Victoria 2, I'd have railroads, and I'd get over there super quick. I don't have railroads. It's 1815, or 1820 in this case. So I apologize if you were hoping for the Ottomans to be destroyed. I said I was going to. The Ottomans were just too big to eat. So, a minor defeat, but a defeat nonetheless. A defeat in the sense not that I lost the war, but a defeat in that I didn't get all the land I wanted to. I even thought about releasing Greece or something like that. That would have been fun. But again, it didn't end up happening. So, at the tail end of the Ottoman War, something incredibly strange and fortuitous happened. Sweden declared war on me. Sweden at this point, you may recall, had 4 cities left. 5, actually. They had Malmö, they had Karlskrona, they had Visby, they had Göteborg, and they had Stockholm. That was literally it. And I already had about 100,000 soldiers sitting in Sweden with nothing to do. So I don't know why the AI did that. Maybe it decided it was tired of living. But in any case, I quickly squished them, and I had everything taken but one bloody city, the city of Stralsund. Now, Stralsund belongs to Prussia, but at an earlier war, Sweden had defeated them and taken the land. Here's what's so bloody frustrating. The British were also fighting a war with Sweden and Portugal, and let me think, Egypt and Morocco. And they could not beat Portugal. So they're sitting here struggling with Portugal the whole bloody time. It was stupidly frustrating, and because they controlled Stralsund, I couldn't end my war. In retrospect, I probably couldn't have vassalized Sweden anyway. It had 102 war score, but I would have at least liked to have tried. So what ended up happening was I took all the cities but Stockholm, I freed Visby, and then later on in the game I went ahead and I attacked Sweden. That wasn't terribly thrilling. It was pretty much just, I have your city now, you belong to me. The end. So all of Sweden did belong to Russia. Why is Sweden on the map now? This is because at some point Great Britain declared war on Denmark and actually freed Sweden. You'll notice Denmark is almost gone. At least the bits of Norway that they'd controlled. And they'd controlled most of it. So, that's what happened. In the northern frontier, we now have a lovely Russia that controls not only all of Finland, but all of Sweden as well. The important bits of Sweden. And I don't have, like, Östersund. If you're a Swede, maybe you can let me know if that's, like, an important city or something. But something tells me it probably isn't. That's just a guess on my part, though. So, with all these wars left, it was about 1818, and I knew I could try for maybe one more war. And for a while, I was going to attack Austria. But then, Prussia, which had been allied to France, lost their alliance because France had actually attacked them. And as you can see here in January 1820, actually France is badly beating them. Although, let's be perfectly honest, I did all the work. I think France should give me half the territory, but they probably won't because they're France. And this was a really hard war, so I ended up declaring war on Austria, which brought in Prussia. I declared war on Prussia, which brought in Austria after France and Prussia had their falling out. Here's the bad news. Prussia had a super tough army that was actually better than mine. I was used to just winning both through a combination of quality and quantity. I didn't have the quality. Prussia was much better than me. And so there was a real frustrating part where I'd take a castle, and with slightly fewer troops than me, Prussia would just wipe out my army. Excuse me. And it was really back and forth. I mean, they were actually the first country I can think of, besides the Ottomans, who took a couple of these castles down here, to take some of my forts in Russia. And I mean proper Russian forts like Kovno and Libava, that had been Russian since the beginning of the game, not territory I had taken. So what I eventually had to do was maneuver my armies, gather them into bigger armies, and eventually created this doom stack you see down here of 154,000. And by the way, it should actually be bigger, but they're suffering attrition because I'm too lazy to separate them. And I just built this massive army, and I just started running over everything. I went the pure super Russian route, where I was beating them like 3-1 odds. And I still have loads of manpower. You can see I still have over 1 million men. So if we take a quick look at the ledger, you'll get a little better of an inkling. Let's see here. We're going to have to go down a bit for Prussia. Their army quality was at one point like 170. They were actually better than I was. And it got really scary. But we knocked Prussia around a bit. We got a whole bunch of land off them, including Warsaw, a dominance objective for us, which was really nice. And then we beat up Austria some more and took all this territory in here. By that point, it was about winter of 1819, knowing that the game was about ready to end. I briefly considered a war with France, but I couldn't do it justice. The game ends in 1820, and I didn't want the series to last too much longer. So this is where we are now. A very greatly expanded Russia, almost to their pre-World War I frontiers, actually a little bit beyond because we have Sweden, which we didn't have before. There's bits of Poland we don't possess, which is unfortunate, but we have less of the Ottoman Empire, less of Persia than Russia took historically, but we also have Sweden, which Russia never had. And we actually have more of Austria, because we have properly Austrian territories, like Hungarian Debrecen, Klausenburg, and Deutschendorf of Austria. And these are classically Austrian territories. So overall, very happy with how this war went. And we have these bits of the Ottoman Empire that we didn't have before. So, the one thing I cannot figure out, and maybe you, my loyal viewers, know the answer to this, is why I don't have land dominance. I think it's because I have to actually beat them in a war. Because if you look at the victory map mode, I hold all of my land dominance. All of it. I don't have all my naval dominance. I don't have, for example, these Ottoman cities. Why is Valletta important to us? I don't even know where Valletta is. Oh, it's in... Oh, is that Malta? Why on earth would I care about Malta? I don't know. And I could have picked up Danzig, and had I looked at this again, I probably would have. But for some reason, I have a much higher dominance score than France, and yet they're claiming that France still has land dominance. And I checked everything I could think of. Maybe I'll do some more research later on and report back. Wait a minute. My victory conditions were higher last time, because I got an outright win. By prestige. It might be that I need to have... Let's see here. Anytime in the game if I hold enough of my objective provinces. Yes, yes, yes. Victory conditions. Dominance. I don't know why France didn't lose land dominance. That really bothers me. That really bothers me. Is there any kind of help here? Because this still bothers me, and I still don't know why France still has land dominance when I clearly should. Because I hold all of my... Refer to the country panels about potential objectives of interest. Why do I not have land dominance? Oh, ideas-wise, I went and got some economic ideas that really helped. I picked up the one that reduced frontage, which was what? What reduced frontage? Yeah, I picked up the command ideas, and I think those were pretty helpful too. This is really confusing to me. I genuinely don't understand it, but maybe one of you can help us figure it out. Yeah, I want coalitions. Because basically my end game was to take land dominance from France and then form a coalition maybe against Great Britain. But for whatever reason, it's hard to tell. Maybe I'll look at the manual, maybe I'll report back in the comments if I find out why I didn't get land dominance. I should have had it, but I didn't. But we had a very big army. If we look back at the ledger, we can look at this as kind of a nice way to wrap things up. Most manpower in the world, obviously. We had 10 times the manpower, roughly speaking, of France. Biggest army in the world, again, France long below us. Our navy got big enough. Our navy never got big enough, and that's the one thing, if I played this game again, I would do differently. I would build at least a big enough navy to be more competitive in the Baltic. Or in the Ottoman Empire. In terms of quality, we fell back a little bit. We were behind Egypt because, again, and I mentioned this in the earlier videos, if you're defeated, you actually get more quality. Because you learn from your defeats better than you learn from successes. But we're still better than, say, Great Britain, or Prussia, or Austria. Navy, we weren't so good. I mean, there's a bunch of countries tied at 99, including Persia, which only has the bloody Caspian. That's kind of insulting. Really, Switzerland has 99 naval quality? Unbelievable. Switzerland doesn't even have any bloody water. But anyways, Russia is also 99. And I'm perfectly fine with that, actually. I mean, 96 rather. I'm actually worse than Switzerland. Prestige, we lead the world. Not too much of a surprise. A good showing for Piedmont, it looks like. That might be worth taking a quick peek at and seeing how they're doing. Income-wise, we were actually starting to lose money toward the end of that there. Here we actually have revenue neutral. Actually, I think we're still losing slightly. Yeah. And that's because of the big armies we built. I probably went a little overboard on armies, but, you know, you never know what can happen. I never expected Sweden to declare war on me. There's not much else here that I think is all that interesting to look at. Manpower, ooh. Monthly gain is Russia at the top. Now you can see here I lost quite a bit in manpower. A lot of that due to attrition. Because I was Russia, I basically said, attrition, And then lots and lots and lots of people died. Who are rivals? Okay. My rivals are probably just the other major powers, so that's not that thrilling. I don't think there are any coalitions right now. Oh, I take it back. Yeah, there's Piedmont. Let's take a quick look at Piedmont, actually. I didn't realize they were doing so well in this game. What the hell is Piedmont? Piedmont has Corsica, and that's it. And yet they have one of the most prestige in the game. Must have had some successful early wars. Must have. If the game went on for, let's say, another 10 years, I would probably have fought France. Because France is my only serious rival, and I think I can take them. But it doesn't, and I don't really want to spend too much more time on this game for now. I think it was a great look at the game, but don't get me wrong, and if you'd like to see more of it, please make sure to mention it in the comments. And maybe I'll consider a second series in the future. Maybe playing as like an Italian state, that would make life more interesting. It's a possibility, but not right away. So I think the only other thing left to do is to go to the ending screen. So we'll unpause, and right away it says resign, and we get to see the screen at the ending in all of its glory. So good. So good. Let's bask in the glory for a few moments, shall we? Let's bask. Alexander I Romanov is the greatest ruler in Russian history, of course. And we get a minor victory, which really bothers me, because France's land dominance wasn't that good. And again, I will look that up. I'll check the manual and stuff, and I'll actually post in the comments to see if I can figure out what happened and why I don't have land dominance. It might be that you have to actually defeat the land dominant power or party in a war to actually take the title from them. But that is it for this series. So I hope you've enjoyed this short little recap. I'm going to put this up right away. I'm not going to make you guys wait till Sunday. Because you would have gotten at least one episode on Sunday, so I'm going to give it to you now. It should be going up here in about an hour and a half or so, depending on processing time and my other videos uploading. I do hope you join me for my other series. I right now have EU4 running 4 times a week. Stellaris just finished, but I think I'll start a new series when the Atoms patch comes out next week, which I believe is Tuesday because it's May the 9th. So yeah, we'll just go right into another Stellaris series. It seemed really popular, people seem to love it, and I'd like to keep going with it. Hearts of Iron 4 is on the docket for the Death or Dishonor DLC. Once that's released, I'll play as Hungary, and that should be a lot of fun too. So, and of course, OOTP 18 and Skyrim are also on the channel, and will continue to run until I get bored of them. But until next time, please remember to like, comment, and of course subscribe if you haven't already. And until next time, this has been Avindian, wishing you good day, good luck, good fortune, and Slava России!